Ready to record, Mark? Are you gonna?
Yeah, I've just pressed that button now, so it should be.
Okay, perfect, that's it, yeah. All right, good morning and welcome to those in attendance at this remote meeting of the local review body of Aberdeen City Council on Wednesday, the 23rd of February 2022. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and published online for public access after the meeting. You'll also be reminded to note that we may have members of the public or press observing today's proceeding. Can I ask those who are observing today's meeting to keep their microphones and cameras switched off throughout? Can all members of the review body leave their cameras on but mute their microphone when not speaking? As the local review body contains quasi-judicial business, members are reminded that they should not leave the room or meeting during the consideration of any of the reviews. This meeting has been convened in response to 3 requests for review of the decision taken by appointed officers under the Council scheme of delegation. Members of the local review body have before them copies of the review documents as listed in the notice calling the meeting. Members of the local review body have before them the copies of the review documents, including additional confidential material which we requested. I think is that this one, Mark? It's got
23rd of February.
It's got the bit about the additional information, but I thought that was the previous
Okay,
one.
sorry, that's maybe something.
That's okay, because I suddenly thought, I don't think we did, but that's fine. They all blend into one. I know what it's like. I'll now ask Mr. Masson, the Assistant Clerk, to outline the procedure that's to be followed to conduct these reviews. Mr. Masson.
Thank you, Chair. Members have the procedure note which was circulated with the meeting papers and is intended to set out the wider framework within which the review process operates. From this, it is clear that the first task for the review body is to come to a decision on whether the review documents contain sufficient information for the case to be determined without further procedure, and by that it is meant without further information or representations. To assist, I feel it would be helpful to mention the following. Firstly, that the regulations governing the local review process require that all matters which the applicant intends to raise in the review must be set out in or accompanying the notice of review. Secondly, that the focus of the review should be on the basis of what was before the appointed officer when a decision was made, and only in exceptional circumstances will new or additional matters be permitted to be taken into account. Thirdly, to note that the modernisation of the planning system, which included revisal of the planning appeals process, of which this local review body is part, removed the previous right on the part of an applicant to insist on a hearing and replaced that with the local review body, providing them with the power to choose a procedure which more accurately reflects the facts and circumstances of the individual case. And lastly, that guidance issued by the Scottish Government's Chief Planner in 2011 stated that reviews by local review bodies should be conducted by means of full consideration of the application afresh. This review should take the form of a structured discussion led by the chairperson to consider the matter set out in the notice of review before you, and I would conclude by drawing your attention in particular to points 10 to 12 of the procedure note. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masson. Okay, turning to consideration of the first review in respect of the decision to refuse the application for alterations and extension to a dwelling house at Borrowstone Road, AB 158RR, planning reference 210930/DPP. We will now hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Ms. Lucy Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reasons why the application was refused. I would point out that Ms. Green attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because she has not been involved in the earlier consideration of the application under review. Ms. Green will, however, not be asked to express any views on the merits of the proposed development, and in effect, her role will be a neutral one involving the provision of factual information and guidance only. And with that, I'll hand over to Ms. Green. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. I'll just share my screen.
Sorry, Chair, do you not need to do a roll call?
Okay, Mark, do you want to?
I can do a bit. I just thought because there's only the 3 of you, I didn't think it was necessary, but I can do a quick roll call if required. I'll just read out the names just now. Councillor Bolton is chair.
Here.
Councillor Allen.
Here.
And Councillor Mason.
Here.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me.
That's okay.
Okay. Can you see the presentation?
We can, thanks, Lucy.
So this review relates to the request for review against an application refused under delegated powers for alterations and extension to the dwelling house at Boriston Road, Aberdeen. It's the location plan. The review has been submitted with all the necessary information within the time limit of 3 months following the decision of the appointed officer, that decision having been the 11th of November and the notice of review having been received on the 7th of January. The applicant has indicated on the notice of review that no new matters have been raised in the review submissions. In terms of the procedure by which the review be conducted, the applicant has expressed the view that a site visit would allow members to fully assess the nature of the site, and that review should not proceed on the basis of the relevant information only. So I will proceed to provide some background information on the site. The application site is a traditional granite house with curtilage mainly to the south and east. It's to the south of the farm buildings and to the east of Boriston Bothy that has been extended and converted for residential use. The frontage of the building faces south. Other buildings in the grouping include a collection of agricultural buildings of a mix of sizes and materials, mostly modern. And the site is accessed from a private track off a minor road which joins the AWPR roundabout on the A9.
Lucy, are you wanting to use your slides here? Or are you just leaving, because at the moment we've just got the location plan up?
Yes, no, sorry, I was just going to move through them.
Okay, that's fine.
Next.
It's just that Gavin used to do it different, so it's just getting used to the different styles, that's all. It's just in case some people think it's moving on and we don't know.
Oh no, I'm just going to move through them now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is the overhead aerial picture showing the site here. And this is the track leading to the minor road down to the AWPR junction. This is just taken from Street View, and I've put this arrow just indicating where the house is behind the trees here. The photograph supplied by the applicant just showing what was referred to by the case officer as the front elevation, the south elevation there. And these are showing the north and east elevations of the house. The east elevation again and the front south elevation. So there's no relevant planning history to the site, and the proposal is for detailed planning permission, which is sought for the contemporary style single-storey extension to the front and side of the house, and it would wrap around the corner of the building. The extension, just move through the layout plans first. So that just shows the existing house with the extension wrapping around the corner. And that's the roof plan. Again, the elevations. So this is the elevation closest to the private track that leads to the house. And then the north elevation just showing the sort of the end of the extension. This is the existing house. And then the south elevation, which is largely glazed. So the extension would be glazed to the south with black horizontal and vertical timber cladding, The roof would be a single ply membrane with aluminium parapet flashing and aluminium clad timber windows. Other works, including to the dormers, do not require planning permission as they are permitted development. And in terms of trees, which I'll just move on to the next slide, there would be 3 removed due to ash dieback. Those would need to be removed anyway. The extension would not be within the root protection area of the remaining trees, whilst it would be slightly within the zone of influence, which is roughly the falling area of the mature tree. So moving on to the appointed officer's reasons for refusal, these are stated in full in the decision notice, which is included in the agenda pack. These make reference to the following factors: that the proposal would be detrimental to the character and appearance of the traditional farmhouse, and therefore detrimental to the character of the greenbelt and the contribution that the traditional building makes to that character, and therefore in conflict with greenbelt policy, the design policy, and the householder development guide. Moving on to the appellant's case. This is set out in the notice of review and the statement, both of which are in the agenda. And the following central points are made. Firstly, that there's no adverse impact on the greenbelt, with the existing house being screened by the mature trees from public view, and impact on the wider landscape setting of the city and on the boundary of the existing community. That the proposed extension is smaller than the recently constructed extension to the body building to the west. That the extension is subservient to the existing house. It's of high quality design and therefore complies with policy D1 and policy on Greenbelt. That there's no impact on natural heritage, including the trees and protected species, notably the bats. That it's consistent with the council's technical advice note on materials. They note that it's not possible to extend the house to the north, and that extension to the south would deliver solar gain. It's further noted that the proposed extension is smaller than the size of extension that could be built under permitted development rights. And they make reference to various other points within the policy, the report of handling, just confirming compliance with elements of other policies and SG. In terms of consultations, Kingswell's Community Council, there were no comments received from them, and there were no representations. So I'll hand it back now to you, convener, to decide on further procedure.
Okay, thanks very much. Members, we now need to consider whether we have sufficient information in front of us today to take a decision. You will recall, obviously, that the applicant did suggest that we may want to undertake a site visit. If there's any, if you want Ms. Green to look at any Google Map images, we can always do that if that helps you make a decision. Or if you want a site visit, obviously that's also available to you. Councillor Allen.
I'm content with the information we have, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Mason.
Do we have any Google Maps available? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I'll get Screen to pull some up.
I can pull that up.
Thank you.
Just 1 second. Just share that. Sorry, shared the wrong screen. It's not telling me which screen to share.
You've got lots of files there.
Yes. It's It's just showing me blank screens. So
Okay.
that's better. Right, it's now.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Let's move that into the main. Yeah, that's as far in as it'll let me go
Okay.
to the. And I mean, I can do Google Street View from the end of the track, but it doesn't
Show you anything.
It's not
really.
giving a.
I think that kind of gives you at least the location in terms of the wider area. Is that helpful for you, Councillor Mason?
Not really. I'm just trying to get a sense of place, I guess.
Okay, I can zoom out.
Can we get lower down, as it were? Or
I can go onto the. You can only go onto the end of the track.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to really see because you're just looking down. That's at the end there behind these trees.
But you've got those. These are new modern bungalows, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yes, these are the ones on the north of the track.
Okay. Is that helpful, Councillor Mason?
to some extent, yes.
You can't get any closer on
No, okay.
Street View.
Okay. Are you content with that? As I say, the other option open to you is the site visit.
I think we might need a site visit, as far as I'm concerned. I think.
Okay.
Because it is a decision of a judgment as to is fitting in or not.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Now,
Obviously, yeah. I mean, that's fine. So I know that Councillor Allen obviously said that she had sufficient information. I suppose given that the applicant has also indicated that they think we would benefit from a site visit, perhaps we need to reschedule it and do a site visit. Sorry, Councillor Allen, I know that that's a bit of a journey for yourself, but if we could maybe reschedule something and we'll make it an appropriate time that would work for you, Councillor Allen. Okay, thank you.
Okay, as long as it's not too early.
No, we won't. We won't make it too early. I appreciate this.
Okay.
Okay, so if we can then, obviously now that we've decided that the members want to have additional procedures and that's a site visit, we'll adjourn this part of the meeting and the clerk will outline the next steps. Mr. Masson?
Yeah, I'll make contact with all councillors and arrange appropriate time and place for meeting up and to get us there. I'll just be in touch via email.
Okay, that's super. Okay, so that's the deferment of item 1. So if we could now then turn to the second review in respect of the decision to refuse the application for the erection of a fence to the front, and it is retrospective at 6 Park Hill Avenue, AB 217FP, planning reference 211481/DPP. We'll now hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Ms. Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reasons why the application was refused. Again, I would point out that Ms. Green also attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because she has not been involved in the earlier consideration of the application under review. Ms. Green will, however, not be asked to express any views on or merits on the proposed development, and in effect her role will be a neutral one, providing factual information and guidance only. So with that, Ms. Green, over to you.
Thank you, convener. So this application is a request for review against refusal under delegated powers for the erection of the fence at 6 Park Hill Avenue. The location plan just showing site here. The review has been submitted with all necessary information within the time limit of 3 months following the decision of the appointed officer. That decision being 23rd of November and the notice of review having been received on the 11th of January. The applicant has indicated on the notice of review that no new matters have been raised in the review submissions. In terms of procedure by which the review will be conducted, the applicant has expressed the view that the review may proceed on the basis of the information provided. So I'll provide some background information to the case before handing back to you, convener, for members to discuss the case and ask any questions.
Thank you.
So in terms of background to the site, the application site is a semi-detached house with front and rear curtilage, just shown here. The principal elevation faces south, away from Park Hill Avenue, with front gardens facing onto the area of open space, with the Farburn running immediately adjacent to the garden boundary, just along here. And there's no relevant planning history to the site. So this is a retrospective planning application for the erection of the approximately 1.8 high timber fence around the front garden. Just around this, the 3 sides. The supporting posts are on the outer side with panels facing into the garden. Showing elevations of the fence, sides to the neighbours, and that's the plan showing tree in the garden. Photographs of the site showing the fence here. And some photographs taken from within the garden. This is just from Google 3D images. This is the garden prior to the fence being erected. And that's from the north side of the property. Again, prior to the fence being erected, it's the south elevation. The fence, you can see a lower fence just existing at that time. So moving on to the reasons for the decision. These are stated in full in the decision notice within the agenda pack and make reference to the following factors. The height and scale of the fence being wholly out of character with the characteristics of the surrounding area, the detrimental impact on visual amenity, and that the proposal was therefore contrary to policy for residential areas, design policy, and also the council's householder development guide. The appellant's case, which is set out in the notice of review, makes central points that there are 5 other properties with similar fences on Park Hill Avenue, and they've submitted photographs of those. Those were between numbers 26 to 44. I can show you those on the map if you'd like to see them. Just go on to, I think they're on the, yeah, they're just off to the right on this location plan. So I'm just going to Google Earth. Okay, so this number 26. Just in relation to the application property. So that's 26. The application properties there. So these extend up this way.
Would that be the front of their properties though? I wonder. Okay, so that's the fence they were talking about.
Yeah.
Just the front.
Let me go over to the other side. Yeah, I mean,
That's the kind of the rear, so that the
some of
frontage
them.
is-
Yeah. Some of them do have garages to this north side, but it's a slightly different relationship.
Okay.
Do you want me to carry on along there, or?
I don't know if you can just, have you got in your pack to put up just the photographs that were supplied, or?
Yeah.
That might just be quicker, I was thinking. Oops.
So it's number 36. 38. Okay. Number 40. And 44.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you, Lucy.
So just go back to the presentation.
Councillor Allen, sorry.
Yeah, it's just while we're doing that photograph, Lucy, am I right in when I'm looking at them that the ones they've submitted, the support posts are on the outside of the fence and their support posts are on the inside?
Their support posts are on the outside with the
Their support
panel.
posts.
Yeah.
That's not what I was seeing.
That was the photo
they're on the
from the
outside. Yes, yes.
Yes.
And other folks, are they on the inside? I think that's what I was seeing.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think there might be a mix.
Yeah.
Some of them are on the outside and some are on the inside. Want me to show the photos again?
Don't see them again, Yvonne.
Sorry. Yes, because it's an important issue for me.
Okay, so those are on the inside.
Okay.
Those are on the inside. Those look as if they might be on the outside.
Yeah,
Just see posts there.
yeah.
I'm not sure about that one. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Majority are in the
outside.
inside. Yeah.
they're outside as well.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy.
Just
Okay.
Okay. So yes, second point made by the applicant is that in view of those other fences, the fence in question is not out of character with the area. That their property is around 100 metres from a public footpath with a variety of buildings and uses beyond. That the fence complies with the household SG in terms of assessment of lighting, so impact on the neighbours. That the fence would protect a young child from straying towards the far burn, which the applicant says becomes fast and deep during heavy rain. That the previous low fence left the garden exposed to public view, and that the fence cuts down noise from traffic on Riverview Drive, and so increases enjoyment of the garden. In terms of consultation, there were no comments received from Dyson Stonewood Community Council. There were 2 objections received and additional comments made by number 4 to the LRB, and these related to loss of view from neighbouring property windows, loss of light to the neighbouring garden. The fence encloses a front garden, is unsightly and spoils the look of the area, and the proposal, if approved, would set a precedent. So I'll now hand back to you, convener.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms Green. Okay, we've obviously heard that the applicant has felt that the review can continue without any further measures. Councillor Allen, are you content to continue today? Do you have sufficient information?
Yes, I'm content.
Thank you. Councillor Masson?
Sorry, I'm happy for the moment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'm equally happy that we'll have sufficient information. So as members all feel they have sufficient information, we'll now hear from Ms Green on the relevant policies and consideration for this review. Ms Green.
Thank you. So the relevant policy considerations, policy H1 relating to residential areas states that proposals for new development will be acceptable in principle if they meet a number of criteria, and I've just highlighted the most relevant ones. So would the proposal have an unacceptable impact on the character and amenity of the area? And the other one, does it comply with supplementary guidance, which in this case would be the householder design guide? Also, policy D1 on design is relevant and seeks a high standard of design with the 6 qualities there that you'll be familiar with. The householder development guide, in terms of boundary treatments, it looks at the scale and form, and it states that in scale and form they should be appropriate to the setting and not detract from the street scene, and that they will not be permitted where there is an unacceptable impact on neighbours. Also goes on to say that approvals predating this guidance do not present a precedent. And just to note there, I did look at the history of permissions for fencing along Park Hill Avenue, and there were no permissions showing on our map-based system going back to 2009.
Okay.
So points for consideration. Do members consider that the proposed works would adversely affect the character or amenity of the area as set out in policy H1? And do they secondly comply with the relevant householder SG? Is the design of appropriate quality for the context? And overall, do they comply with the development plan when considered as a whole? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Members, questions for Ms Green? Councillor Allen, have you any?
Yes, on the height of the fence, I was under the belief that it was 6 foot was the permitted height, and 1.8 meters, I think, would be around 6 foot. Can you tell me if I'm thinking is correct or not?
Yeah, that's approximately correct. Yeah.
And permitted
Yes.
is 6 foot, yeah?
It's under 2 meters.
Yeah. Okay, so they're 1.8. Okay, that's fine. That's all I've got.
Okay, Councillor Masson?
Yes, that was really my question. I mean, why don't if it's permitted height, that's not stated in the various documents, is it? In terms of being permitted.
Well, it would be permitted on a rear garden. That would be under 2 meters. For a fence in the front area, it would be 1 meter. That's why we have the application, because it's over 1 meter.
Okay. I think that's where the
Sorry,
confusion
okay,
is.
Sorry, yes.
So permitted at the back, it's not permitted. Where it's located, it is not permitted.
Yes, where it's located. If it was a rear garden, it would be permitted development. As a front area,
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah,
It would
okay.
be 1 meter.
Yeah, right, okay.
Councillor Allen, you've still got your hand up. Is that an old hand or a new hand? I'm not sure if we've lost Councillor Yvonne. Sorry, Councillor Allen, can you pop your camera on? We're meant to have cameras on. Sorry.
I can't see anybody else's face.
Yeah. Oh, I can see you. I can see everyone.
I can't see your face and I can't see Tom's face.
Oh, that's strange. But you're all on the screen.
I can confirm that the 3 councillors are on my screen.
Yeah, that's us. I can see. Okay, Councillor Allen, obviously you just heard that clarification from Ms. Green. Does that raise any further question for you?
No, I thought it was a back fence when we seen the green grass. I thought it was the back of the house.
Yeah, it's the front elevation, so that's why. Because I was slightly confused as well because of the permitted development and the fact that the front and back have different heights. Okay, right. Is there any further questions from Ms. Green? No. Okay. We've obviously, in accordance with the procedure notes circulated, the local review body will now discuss and decide the manner in which the review is to proceed. I would highlight that all representations relating to the case have been considered and taken into account. So I'll start off with yourself, Councillor Allen.
I'm a bit sympathetic to this one, given that I am concerned about the posts because I always think it's nicer if the support posts are not visible. But given that there's a mixture with the other ones, I have to kind of drop that consideration. I'm leaning towards allowing the fence to stay.
Okay, Councillor Masson.
No, I'm sort of veering the other way in terms of the fences of this nature, and certainly with the posts around the way they are, does strike me as being fairly stark in terms of the green area, and the burn and so on. So I think I'm inclined to refuse at this stage.
Ms. Green, could I just get you to take up the photograph of the house in question, the photographs they supplied? Could you just pop them back up for me, please?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sorry, is this, you wanted the one of the actual
application.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, that's from the outside.
See.
And the ones from the inside.
Okay. In terms of the representations, did you say there was ones from the neighbouring properties?
Number 4 and number 2.
So we don't know which.
So number 4 is to the left. on
Okay,
this.
so that's the semi-detached element.
Yeah. And number 2.
Okay. And just clarify the point of the semi-detached that they made.
They said there was loss of view from neighbouring property windows, loss of light to neighbouring garden. Fence encloses a front garden is unsightly and spoils the look of the area, and it would set a precedent.
And then there's a wall adjacent to, I don't know how high that one is. Okay, and you also, I know that we don't look at the precedent of the other ones, but you're saying there's no planning applications in for them, the ones that were submitted.
I looked, yes, I looked on the mapping system, so that goes back to 2009.
Yeah, and they were front elevations as well, weren't they? Because remember when we looked at the from the street view.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I must be honest, it's a difficult one because looking at it, it's not particularly attractive, I'll be perfectly honest. But you know, when something goes in situ to start with, it often looks rather stark. But and I'm just looking at the house it's attached. They've obviously done various planting and things. The next house has got a sort of an extension to the actual wall itself with some fencing along it. And it's sort of separating that in the next property. Was there any other photos submitted there on that particular, just to?
It's just the ones from the inside.
Yeah. Okay. Just to be really difficult again, yeah, that's helpful. Just gives me an overview.
Is that photograph showing the front of the house?
That's showing the front, yes, the fence is round.
So the front of the house doesn't face onto the road?
No, that's the rear elevation that faces onto
that's what was confusing me, because I thought that was the back. It looks like it's the back because it's at the burn and the waste ground and stuff, but
Yeah.
I still am of the same opinion because it's not even visible from the road itself. Okay, thank you.
All right. Sorry, Lucy, can I just get you to go back onto just street view, but to go onto the rear of the property, just to see what what it's like from the back, just to understand sort of the usable garden and how it works.
Yeah.
Because I do sympathise with having a toddler in a garden and being able to keep them safe, particularly when you've got a burn that's at the bottom. Okay, so there's not really a usable garden at the back. Okay, can you take your little man and walk around to the other side as well, just so I can have a quick look? Thank you.
Yeah, so just don't run out at the minute. I mean, I gave this report back in December to colleagues. I have it approved last.
Tell Nigel I can hear him.
Yes, I'm in Marshall. Yeah, that's the front there.
And is there a path that runs along the front of it, or is that it's just the burn, isn't it?
Yes, it's the burn there.
Yeah, so they access their front from the back, is that right? How do they get in there?
Yeah, to that door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They must have to come around the back of the house to get into the front of the house.
Yeah, it is an unusual layout.
Yeah. Okay, and can you just move it along so I can just see the rest of the houses there? When's this map from, or these images? 2018, is that what it says?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then just swivel around so I can see what's it's facing.
Right,
So I think it's at Riverside Drive, isn't it?
that's Riverside Drive, yeah.
Yeah. I've got some trees and various other things.
Just go back a bit.
Yeah. Now you've got the. Okay. Right. Okay. So, Councillor Mason, does that give you any clearer views of the area in terms
Yes,
of?
it sort of confirms my opinion that it will be sort of rather stark and rather upsetting to the area, because I mean it is a fairly green area, but it would be an amenity to the local, having to look at look at a whole load of fencing if everybody did that along the street.
Yeah. Let's see.
We're offering it.
I mean, I must admit I don't like looking at the fencing, but I'm just trying to think of the practicalities in terms of that is, to all intents and purposes, is actually their rear garden. You know, and that's, I suppose, my concern is the usable space for that house to use as a garden is to the rear, and if we've got a burn running down the back of their house, I suppose I'm just going back to the concern over, you know, the child, but again, equally you could say you bought the house in the full knowledge that that was there. Gosh, it's quite a taxing one, because if you're looking strictly at the policies, I think you know, potentially, but things are never quite so black and white. Sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Mason.
Yeah, just in terms of there's nothing to stop them having a fence. It's just the height of the fence, which is called, you know, a sort of sensible size fence would prevent the child from straying out.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out. So I mean, basically, you're looking at, if they to alter that fence, they would have to take it down by 0.8, so not quite half. Is that correct, Lucy?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Can you just show me their picture of their fence again, once more? The actual, yeah, foot, that's it. Okay, so we'll probably be looking at, yeah, about there.
Probably at the batten level, I guess.
Yeah, which would probably, if you look between the two houses, they've got a stone wall there, which is probably slightly beneath that. Okay, right. All right, I think we're probably in a position to make that final determination now that we've had another back and forth. So if I can just confirm, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, I mean, technically for me, when you see the setting and you see the spare ground that's out there, for me, I'm technically looking at that like it's their back garden, because as you say, they've got a driveway at the front and precious little else. So it is an unfortunate way they've been built, but for me, it looks, you know, technically like their back garden. So I would have no hesitation in allowing it to stay on safety issues and on various other issues.
Okay, Councillor Masson.
I think, I mean, certainly it's unfortunate it is around there, but I mean that is, if you like, given, and the you know, the other people have to look at this and from that green space, and I guess the green space is used at, you know, as part of the amenity of the area. And having to look at such a large fence was a bit upsetting, I think. So I'm not for allowing this to go through.
Lucy, can I just ask, would it be, I mean, I know at the moment it's a kind of a bright orangey red, which is the stain of the wood. I mean, would we be able to ask for it to be painted green, for instance, which would have made it maybe disappear a bit more into the
Just.
a green
yes.
stain? Yeah, I mean, I think I might
So
be a bit
that's
more comfortable if,
rated.
Councillor Allen, how would you feel about putting a green stain on it?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that condition.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be supportive of it if we could just dull it down a bit. I mean, it stands
Yeah.
out a little bit too much. And I think if we at least gave it a green stain, I think it would kind of disappear more into in keeping in the green area. I mean, you could, people could put a whole Lelandii hedge along there. And
Yeah.
and some people might think that's equally unattractive, although probably biodiversity wise, other people might like it. But I think at least a fence, you know what you've got. It's not going to get unwieldy. And I am mindful that if you've got, whether it's a dog or a young child in a burn that's running along the back, I do think perhaps the idea of the planning design of that house, it might be better having that is the back garden as opposed to the front. So I understand where the officer was coming from in terms of sort of placemaking and design and H1 and our supplementary guidance, but I think there's mitigating factors, and I think with the condition of putting on the green stain, I think it will make it acceptable and it won't be quite such a shock for those neighbouring properties as well. I think it will allow them to have it as a backdrop for their planting rather than the orange, which kind of is quite glary.
Is a space for planting? I mean, in front of the fence on the outside, planting a hedge.
Well, I think though that's onto private, that's onto public land, Councillor Mason. So we have to look at what's there within their footprint. So, and it's up to the edge of the footprint. So, I wouldn't think that would be a suitable option. And I think it's just next to the burn as well. So I think that could add perhaps a bit of a hazard in terms of it, if it starts to block out part of the burn and people don't see it. So I think we have just to look at within the red line of the boundary. Would you agree, Ms. Green?
Yes, I mean, I think to get any planting in, you would have to move the end fence back and put it within their plot.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that?
Well, we've got to determine what's before us. Adding a condition in terms of the colour is not, it's not onerous in such a way that would mean that they've got to deconstruct the fence. So that would significantly change the planning application, I would suggest. So, that's why I've gone for the green stain as opposed to simply leaving as is. So our choice really is, do we want it up there? I'm proposing with the green stain, or yourself, Councillor Mason, would be to refuse and take an enforcement action, to have it at least lowered to 1 metre would be their option, wouldn't it, Ms. Green?
Yes, they would then not need planning permission for it.
I would support your suggestion there, convener.
Okay, so I think probably we've got a division of views. So Mr. Masson, can you just take us through?
Yes, well, it was a majority of 2 to 1 to agree that the fence remain as is, with a condition attached for it to be green stained by the applicant.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, moving on finally, thank you folks on that one. Moving on to the third review, which is in respect of a decision to refuse the application for the change of use to a Class 1 shops at Unit 2A Bridge of Dawn Industrial Estate, Woodside Road, Aberdeen, AB 23-8EF, planning reference number 211161/DPP. We will again hear from the planning advisor, Ms. Green, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reasons why the application was refused. I would again point out that Ms. Green attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because she has not been involved in the earlier consideration of the application under review. Ms. Green will, however, not be asked to express views or merits on the proposed development, and in effect her role will be a neutral one involving the provision of factual information and guidance only. Over to yourself, Ms. Green.
Thank you, convener. I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, too.
Can you see
Yes, we can. Thanks.
quotation signs? Okay, this is a request for review against an application refused under delegated powers for change of use to Class 1 shops at Unit 2, Bridge of Don Industrial Estate, off Woodside Road, Aberdeen. And there we can see it on the location plan. The review has been submitted with all the necessary information within the time limit of 3 months following the decision of the appointed officer, the decision notice being dated the 10th of December and the notice of review received 26th of January. The applicant has indicated on the notice of review that no new matters have been raised. In terms of the procedure by which the review shall be conducted, the applicant has expressed the view that the review may proceed on the basis of the information provided. So I'll now provide some background information. This is the overhead aerial photo showing the unit here. It's just half of that building, with the small extension to the front and the car park here. So the application site consists of the northernmost of a pair of attached industrial units within an industrial estate off Woodside Road to the north of the parkway. The unit contains 2 levels internally and is finished typically in metal cladding and brick, and there's no relevant planning history. The proposal is for detailed planning permission for change of use of the building to Class 1 retail, and the submitted plans show that the public entrance, I'll just go back to the plan, show that the public entrance would be just here on the northeast elevation, with car and motorcycle and bike parking in the area adjacent, and the application indicates that the gross floor space within the building would be 488 metres squared. Turning to the reasons for the decision, these are stated in full in the decision notice, which is in the agenda pack, and make reference to the following factors. Class 1 shops is not an acceptable use within a policy B1 business and industrial land. Secondly, that the proposal is not within a designated centre as outlined within policy NC4, which is the sequential approach, and also in the hierarchy of centres supplementary guidance. And thirdly, that the proposal doesn't meet the criteria within policy NC5 out of centre proposals. In terms of the applicant's case, which is set out in the notice of review, the following central points are made. The proposal accords with the development plan as it contributes to the vision, aims and objectives of this strategic development plan and meets the needs of different types and sizes of businesses in line with the aspirations of the local development plan on business and industrial land, and it complies with various other policies that are listed there. Secondly, that the proposal would bring a net economic benefit to the area. Thirdly, that the unit has been marketed for a considerable length of time. And fourthly, the building is a good fit for the proposed occupier as it offers parking for bulky goods, flexible space, and it's accessible by all modes of transport. In terms of consultations, the Roads DM team had no objection, and the Bridge of Don Community Council, there were no comments received from them, and there were no representations. So I'll hand back to you, convener, for the panel to decide how you wish to proceed.
Okay, members, are you, Councillor Allen, are you content that you have sufficient information to go ahead today?
Yes, I'm content, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Myson?
I'm fine for the moment, yes.
Okay, thank you. Back to yourself, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for the call just now.
Convener, can I just ask who is talking in the background? It's very disturbing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think it's Lucy's.
Yes, apologies. I'm actually in Marshall College, and
Okay, okay.
in order to use
Okay.
in order to use multiple screens, I have to sit in the open plan office, so I'm just using earphones. Apologies
Okay.
though. I'll try and sit somewhere quieter next time.
No, it's okay. You kind of help.
Probably will. But let's worry about the supplementary cases. But
So, turning to the relevant policy considerations, policy B1, industrial and business land, seeks to retain land for class 4, 5 and 6 use, with uses such as car showrooms being treated on merit. The other relevant section of this policy relates to facilities that directly support business and industrial uses and may be permitted in terms of meeting the needs of businesses and their employees.
Cheerio, bye-bye.
Policy NC4, this sequential approach. So this seeks to locate significant footfall generating uses in appropriate town centres in accordance with the hierarchy and the size of catchment that they serve. And it also states that only bulky goods, which are defined elsewhere as those that cannot fit into a container or bag, for example, mattresses or chairs. So only bulky goods should be located in commercial centres and only if suitable sites are not available on the edge of other centres. Policy NC5 relating to out of centre lists a number of criteria, all of which must be met for a significant footfall generating development to be located out of centre. And the first of these is that no other suitable site, there's no other suitable site which is acceptable in terms of the hierarchy in NC4. So in respect of this, a sequential test statement was submitted by the applicant and is available amongst the documents on the website. In submitting this, the agent states that the proposal is not a significant footfall generating use, and a large number of available units are listed with reasons given for the lack of suitability. Just looking at other material considerations, the strategic development plan supports the region, the regional centre and sustainable economic growth, and it sets the scene for the local development plan that sees Aberdeen as the regional centre for retail. And it follows the town centre first principle, stating that that should be applied when considering significant proposals for retail and various other uses. It also states that it's particularly important that we continue to support the transformation of Aberdeen city centre and make sure that this key regional asset fulfills its potential. And then it states that local development plans will identify a network of centres which are likely to include the city centre, town centres, local centres and commercial centres, and be organised as a hierarchy. In terms of Scottish planning policy, I've just pulled out the relevant sections of this and put them on a slide, which I thought would be easier than just reading them out. So this has the town centre first principle, which I mentioned for the strategic application plan. So for uses that attract significant numbers of people, including retail and other uses, it's the town centre first policy. In terms of development management, it states that development proposals should have regard to the context provided by the network of centres in the development plan. And then further on, stating that where development proposals in the edge of town centre, commercial centre or out of town locations are contrary to the development plan, it's for applicants to demonstrate that more central options have been assessed. And that's what they did with the sequential test that was submitted. So turning to our supplementary guidance on hierarchy of centres, I'll just show you how that sets out the retail hierarchy. So you can see at the top is the city centre, town centres, district centres. The top two tiers really mention significant footfalling generating development, and then district centres are seen as preferred centres for retail, which is of a scale suitable to that sort of centre. Further down the hierarchy, neighbourhood centres, and then commercial centres, which are those like Kitty Brewster, Berryden, etc. So also in the supplementary guidance, it looks at the thresholds for the sequential approach. So we'd be looking at comparison retail below 5,000 square metres. I mean, this is below 500 square metres. The first preference would be the regional centre or town and district centres. Secondly, edge of city centre or edge of town centre. And thirdly, out of centre, accessible by public transport. So that's the supplementary guidance. It also just states that the threshold gross floor areas are indicative, and it's relevant to look at the market that would be served by the development. And secondly, it makes the point about development proposals considering different built forms to fit better with opportunities which exist within centres in the hierarchy. So points for consideration. Members should have regard to the local development plan and any other material considerations they feel are relevant to the application that would point to either overturning the original decision or dismissing the review. And the following points are relevant. In terms of zoning, do members consider the proposed change of use would comply with policy B1 for business and industrial areas? Secondly, does the proposal consist of a significant footfall generating use, and does it comply with policy on sequential approach and the hierarchy of centres? Does it comply with Scottish planning policy? Does it comply with the development plan when considered as a whole, or are there other material considerations which weigh against that? And I can provide further advice on potential conditions if that was what was under consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Ms. Green. Members, Councillor Allen, have you got questions?
No, not really. I'm content with the information the officer's given us.
Okay. Councillor Mason, have you got questions for Ms. Green?
Do we know, unless I missed it, what exactly is going to be the retail business?
Prams.
If it was prams, yeah. I thought I was thinking reading somewhere else. I had prams in my mind and whatever. Well, is there any reason why industrial, we're changing to retail, which will be, even if the prams went bust, it would still remain retail.
It would.
So we're making a consideration not just for the initial operator, but for forward consideration. And having said that, is there any reason why a pram operation couldn't be as a showroom operated a bit like on an industrial site without retail? Does it have to be retail? Yeah, that's what I'm really asking.
You're asking, does the classification have to change to accommodate it? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm trying to do. You say it much better than I do.
I mean, the application's for open retail permission. So you're right to say that if the pram shop went, then any other retail use as it stands, if the application was approved without conditions, any other retail use could go into that unit. I'm not quite sure what you're asking with the Could they
he's wondering,
manufacture?
could it operate?
Why a pram operation needs to have a change of use. I mean, because there are around various places. I mean, these operations warehouses do have showrooms.
Yes, and
But
some of those,
they're not retail, I don't think.
some of those would have a small retail floor space, which would either be ancillary or would be conditioned so that only a certain floor space could be used for retail. They've got a variety of conditions on them, which could either cover the type of goods that are being sold or would restrict the amount of floor space on which retail could take place. So
Okay.
it's different properties would have different conditions.
Okay, so then they would be specific to each operation. Okay, right. Okay, that's answered my question for the moment. Yeah.
Okay. I'm aware, obviously, at the Bridge of Dawn we have quite a mix of operators with Sterling, I think, and so that there is a kind of a flow where there is a number of non-industrial purposes in that kind of footprint, around about the same area. And I know that there was a suggestion, I think, by the applicant that some sort of condition that the use of retail unit hereby permitted shall be limited to the sale of non-food goods of the following type. Around, I mean, is that a condition you think that could be put on it, Ms. Green, to restrict it to this purpose?
Yes, I mean, you could limit it to non-food types of retail, and you could restrict it to the type of goods that are proposed here. You know, you could say have, nursery and children's bulky goods within a certain floor space. Okay. Probably they would want to have some element of smaller goods, but yeah, you could word a condition.
Okay, Councillor Allen.
Sorry, I have thought of a question, convener. Thank you. Parking. It's obvious that the people are going to have to travel by car, I would think, especially if you're buying a pram. You need to put it somewhere. You kind of wheel it along the street. Did roads have any input to the original setup here? And is there any car parking?
There are 17 spaces shown on the plan, and there's also motorcycle parking, bike parking, and disabled parking. So the roads team had no objection. Okay, that would be interesting to see someone having a bike with a pram on the back. But
maybe put it on like a sidecar.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Obviously, in terms of the sequential test and the sites that they said they looked at, because I mean, I remember Mother Care at Berryden, which didn't last there. I think it's potentially, in terms of scale, it's a smaller operation than would have been in that type of unit. I don't know if you knew it, Ms. Green. I'm just trying to, I mean, I have again a level of sympathy in that, the business, it's been empty for a long time, and there's already an existing range of offers in that area, such as the furniture and all the rest of it. And I suppose nursery furniture is no different from, your couch and your kitchens and stuff that's all out that way. So it's almost like a natural linkage to what's there, but equally, if we don't want to, further reduce any retail opportunities in the city centre. But again, I do remember when Mother Care was on Union Street. Gosh, that goes back. But it's about being able to, with some of the changes and closures of roads and stuff, being able to pick up and actually deliver, bulky goods as even to the shop. Never mind taking them away, starts to become a bit more challenging, although it might come straight from the manufacturer. I'm not very sure. But, I think part of the enjoyment is going around and looking at and trying. And unfortunately, with the loss of John Lewis, again, that was a a prime area for mums to go in and play with the prams and look at the cots, and that's not there either. So I suppose it's about making sure that we do have within the city footprint an opportunity for people to buy, nursery goods, and we certainly like to try them out. I had several plans just for one child. Okay, so in terms of the sequential test, our officers, I was a bit confused with what they were trying to say about the sequential test in terms of the refusal, given what's been submitted.
Let me get the reasons for refusal. Oh.
I just have it here. Too many pages on these reports, that's what it is. I got it here. Is that it? That's wrong. Said, yeah, it says, having regard to the Scottish planning policy in the town centre first policy, as well as the policy in the current local development on B1 planning and land, and it's got proposed class use is not acceptable use within the existing industrial estate. The proposal is also in conflict with policy NC4 sequential test and impact, in that the proposal is not located. But it, for me, it didn't really actually make a reference in the sort of the recommendation or refusal about why they don't accept the sequential test provided by the applicant.
I think within the report, some of the reasons are given for that.
I saw page 131, I think I was thinking, and 130. It says an opting out of sites that can be leased. The applicant is showing that they're inflexible in their requirements. I wasn't just quite sure what that actually meant. I mean, because again, we're assuming that.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I think, the guidance in SPP and other documents is that applicants have to be willing to look flexibly at the type of space they would take. But it also says that, planning authorities should be mindful of what retailers need as well. So, it's consideration on both sides.
Yeah, I just felt that it was kind of sort of dismissed it without, I suppose, from in my view, a kind of a fuller statement. Okay, I think I've asked everything I need to ask. Councillor Allen, have you got any other questions for Ms. Green?
No, I'm content, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Masson, have you got any other questions?
No, I'm sort of content. I'm at the moment inclined to accept it with conditions that non-sue.
Yeah. Okay, right. So I'll just go back to, sorry, I need to get back to the page. This is me trying to be technical, Yvonne. I'm using the different screen. So if I just get back to the place I need to be at.
I can't do any of that.
Oh, hey, it's challenging, shall we say.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, members, in accordance with the procedure note circulated with the local review body, we will now discuss and decide the manner in which the reviews to proceed. I would highlight that all representations relating to the case have been considered and taken into account. So in determination, Councillor Allen, have you a decision in respect of this application?
I'm swinging both sides here. I would be happier if we could put a condition on that any alteration of use would have to come back for approval or something along that lines, convener, if you get my drift.
Yeah, that's it.
If we agree this, I would like it only to be, because I can hear what you're saying, you can furnish your house out there, and this would be an extension to that. But I wouldn't want it to be a precedent that they could just have any kind of retail in there.
Yeah.
I would like to limit it if that's possible.
Okay, Councillor Masson?
I'm of the same view. I mean, I can see that. I mean, I can see things like prams and motorcycles would be in a similar situation, but certainly not supermarkets and fish and chips and things.
Yeah.
So So conditions of some sort to limit the use, I
Yeah.
think would be appropriate.
Okay. I think basically what we're saying, Ms. Green, is that we accept the argument, I think, by the applicant that, you know, because of the nature of the stuff that they're trying to sell is bulkier. You know, and we do accept that in that area there's a number of other furnishing type stores, and I suppose we see this in a similar vein. But what we wouldn't want to do is to suddenly become a completely different retail offer or a food offer. So it's about how we could word a condition appropriately. And again, I'm happy for you to give that some consideration. And to circulate it both, well, to Councillor Mason, myself, and Councillor Allen, once you've maybe had time to think about the appropriate wording, unless you've got anything that you can rustle up quickly.
Well, there's the condition that the applicant has suggested, which I can show you and see.
Yeah.
Because
are you comfortable with that recommendation, as in that condition, Ms. Green?
Yes, I mean that would limit the sale of non-food goods, as well as specifying the type of goods that could be sold. But I'll just show you the actual wording.
Yeah. See if we tried to go back and find it in the other screen.
Not sure. Let me just enlarge it a bit.
Yeah, let's see it. It's just.
So the use of the retail units hereby permitted shall be limited to the sale of non-food goods of the following type. So you could specify in there that it's both or either bulky goods or children's and nursery furniture and pushchairs, prams.
Yeah.
It could be mobility vehicles as well, of course.
Well, I mean, I think what we're, yeah, that's already, I think, taken separately, isn't it, Lucy?
Sorry, what's taken?
Well, I think what Councillor Mason is probably getting at is, you know, we have car showrooms and things like that, but right. I think it's mentioned separately under different parts of the guidance in terms of how we would consider that if for any reason this didn't turn into a nursery showroom or whatever it is, that if it was a car showroom, that would be, again, that would be a permitted use in that area under certain circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to, if they wanted to move from the nursery goods to car showroom, they would have to come back and remove this condition if you specified nursery goods or even bulky goods.
Yeah, okay. So I think what we're looking at is that condition, and maybe in conjunction, I think we'll probably obviously have to make sure that we have the right specification in there in terms of the bulky nursery goods. But, you know, if they were selling like nappies, we wouldn't want to see, well, you can't buy a packet of nappies there, given it's a baby type shop.
Yeah, I mean, the next part of it suggests that you specify a percentage of the net retail floor area for the sale of goods other than those specified.
Yeah.
So that would allow for the smaller items. Okay. So, I mean, I can circulate the sort of final wording of that.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so with that condition, can I just check, Councillor Allen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and Councillor Masson?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so that's we're happy to overturn the officer's recommendation with the condition that we've discussed, and Ms. Green will circulate the final wording for us just to go back and okay with her. Mr. Masson, is there anything further that you require on that?
No, that's not. That's fine. I was just going to ask whether the members and Lucy can maybe stay online after the meeting just to discuss a potential date for that site visit for the first one, rather than me just emailing separately, if that's okay. But that was clear that it was a unanimous decision that condition will be circulated to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think we made that decision, and as I say, just for clarity, in, you know, this specific item, it wasn't a general change in our view on city centre first, just to make that very clear. Okay, all right, thanks very much, everybody. So if members and Ms. Green could stay on, and thank you, John.